Welcome to week 8. This week we're going to talk about values, worldviews, and how we can use those to construct scenarios. So when we talk about values, we're talking about how these can be incorporated into the discussion of environmental problems. We're not evaluating or judging people's values. We're trying to find the range of values that they hold for environmental outcomes and put those squarely in the middle of problem description. One way we can do this is by understanding that people hold worldviews, and there's a set of several worldviews, and these represent values that people hold, their critical thinking skills that they apply to problems, and actually the knowledge that they accumulate. So I'm going to jump ahead and show how 5 worldviews can be used to construct scenarios about a lake, and that these describe possible futures for the lake, and by making some very concrete predictions about what the lake might look like, people can discuss the pathway toward these possible outcomes. So the first worldview is individualist, and we're going to go through these in detail in the reading and lecture. But an individualist essentially believes in the free market, and that the free market will help sort everything out. And in this picture of the lake, you see that the free market view of a lake is that there's industry and economic vitality right next to the lake, that the farms are run more on an industrial model, and that the water in the lake is also being used for high utility, in this case irrigation, and for disposal of wastes. Another worldview is a hierarchist view, and in this case there will be well-constructed policies and rules, and that will lead to the best possible management of the lake. And in the 5 scenarios I'm showing, this probably has some of the cleanest lake water, and that's because they use sewage treatment. They have rules about keeping farms away from the shore. But even over here in the little beach where people are swimming in the very clean water, there are signs up that indicate people are going to be obeying signs. They're going to do what they're told and not do what they're not supposed to do. That's the hierarchist view. The egalitarian view is based on community cooperation, and they believe that the best outcome is going to be when we all work together. We don't need specific constraints, but that we should try to work together. Constraints are heavy-handed policies. We should all work together, and it's not a backward sort of motion. It's more use the best technologies, create a mosaic and high diversity of farmland and wetlands that all have high functioning interaction, and use things like solar panel and wind turbines if necessary. But again, it's a very community-based and sort of believing in the general goodwill of people. A fourth worldview is based more on the ethics of deep ecology, and in this case, humans are only allowed to do things that don't interfere with the natural world, or live as lightly as they can. There'd be a predominance in this case of the natural life in the lake, which would be wetlands and trees along the lake, and even the farms and operations that take place outside. People would try to live with the least possible impact, using bikes rather than cars, using canoes rather than motorboats. Just like this is a view of the world that could be very successful in some situations, and based on an underlying deep ecology ethic. And the final view is the fatalists, where they really believe that no matter what you do, it's all going to fall apart, and you better protect yourself, and nature's can be unpredictable. You better protect yourself from nature. So in this case, you see protection from nature. The shoreline of the water is very heavily armored. The houses have fences around them. The cows are kept in with barbed wire fence. It's all a sort of a protectionist type, take care of yourself, and that's the best you can do sort of underlying. And there's a lot of support for this sort of view when you see what happens in some of these rural communities of just the lake becomes polluted and then it's everyone on their own. So it isn't so crazy to think that fatalism isn't a valid worldview, but it's very pessimistic. So, okay, so the point of this week is to work through what we mean by values and how they are inherently embedded in every environmental problem. Then develop these ideas of different taxonomies of worldviews, and then describe how we can use narratives to collect large amounts of very different information from across the population, and then craft those into scenarios that help us describe what the future is and compare the possible success of those future scenarios.